Okay, so I have all the label properties, the text properties cleared here, and all the text boxes. We have used the function clear. Start the application. All done, and I want to start a new calculation. I just say clear. So this I didn't include, so I have to add that. That's all a very clean way of doing this. The only thing we have not done is error handling. For example, if I start this application, I didn't enter anything and I click calculate, I get an unhandled exception, right? Conversion from string blank to decimal is not valid. It's a perfectly valid error to get, but we don't want the application to crash because right now what has happened is it has crashed. So we want to catch an exception and make a graceful exit. So for that, what we use is we use something called as a try, try, catch an exception, and then end try. So what we do is the entire code we have in our function for the click button calculate click, we put under try. So any exception that happens, this is a much graceful way of exiting an application as opposed to completely crashing. Okay, so you can even make it clear a bunch of values because the inputs are wrong. That's a much cleaner way. So how I would handle it is if it's blank, if the exception says that it is the value of string to decimal, there's a problem, you can handle it a specific way. Um, you can check for different values in here saying, if a specific value is, not an integer or not a valid string, you can raise an exception at that point. But at least this basic exception handling is going to stop our application from completely crashing, and that's really important. So that's a really very basic exception handling that we are having here. So like I said, we talked about variables, form loading. We talked about conversion from one type to another. And here we have talked about basic exception handling. We will do a little bit more with the exception handling as we go further. But I think for now, this should be a decent exception situation. You can even have like a label here. Like maybe here. Label. And you can put that label here. So let's see, auto size. So this label, we can call it as, or exception label, right? So we can call it as label maybe error message. Here's the label, right? So instead of me saying show message box, I can instead say how that goes. Border so we can actually see it. Conversion from string to type decimal is not valid. So let us give something else like R. Then say calculate. These are all blank, so let's give some valid values for those. So let me give something like night. And then here I can give 100. These are all valid. So that's the only problem we have. String night to decimal is not valid. So that's much more understandable. Let's say so you give like a negative number, let's see what it says. It's happy, and even the negative number is formatted. You want to like clear this also every time so that you don't have like hold on to the error messages. So that's something to do. So whenever you come into the try block, what we can do is first step we do is label error message. That way we are not retaining that error message all the time. So let's say 2 nights, 200. Happy, you clear it, then you say something bad here. That change this input to calculate. See, the error message goes away. So I hope this gives you a good idea of how to do some error handling. And I highly recommend using error handling for all your code. That way, there is no ugly exception that the user has to face. And I strongly recommend that you do not use a message box. A label is a much preferred, non-intrusive way to show a message. And of course, you can have like conditional statements, which we'll see later, where you can actually even make it better. Hope this helps.